Gambling is completely legal theft. The exploitation of human impulse is paraded as the freedom of choice, with companies claiming players can quit when they want to, and psychology experts saying they can't. They're purposely enticed to losing their money in exchange for a chance at something better. It's predatory and sickening.
It's sickening because why only do it to adults when you can do it to kids too? The market is right there, guys! Hi, local main character Zepp here, and as my real 3rd grade teacher told me, gambling is fun, especially when it's not your money.
Throughout the years, the people profiting from gambling, greed not you, have been on a quest to make it more fun and less profitable for consumers. Poker games and horse races are intense, but opening up a pack of cardboard? Spending real-world money on the chance to get PNGs? Call me Peter Parker because I'll take those photos. And then watch all of the women in my life die right in front of me. Genshin Impact? Sure, take candy from babies. I think the bigger crime is making kids think that Twinks McGee here counts as thick. I'd hate to see what they'd call the freaks from Free. Is Oron High School Host Club the gun show for them? The gross further gamification of gambling also applies to the lottery, the tax for people who still hang on to the American dream. Why just prey on people's hope for a better life, you deprive them from, by making them guess numbers when you can do the same thing by making them play a fun, scratchy game? Yeah, they found a way to sell coloring book activities to desperate adults in need of cash. Revolutionary stuff. It was only a matter of time until they found out a way to combine trading cards and scratch-off cards to make the ultimate way to sell cardboard gambling to kids. Throughout the 70s and the 80s, there were multiple attempts to put scratch-off games on trading cards. They would mostly be found on baseball cards, but even Nintendo got in on the action, which should surprise no one given their previous 100 years of history. Shout out to this Punch-Out simulator. Why would someone get this graded? Why would you slap this? Who wants this? This is why people can't get actual cards slapped. Oh yeah, you need your Starlight Rare slapped? Sorry, champ, I gotta get through this pile of King Hippos first. As the 90s grew nearer, the draw of using trading cards to play a game would become too alluring and would bring about the first TCG at 1993's Gen Con. BattleCard.
Yeah. You thought Magic the Gathering was the world's first trading card game? Yeah, dumbass, that's 'cause you're exactly correct.
Yeah. MTG defined to the world what a TCG was. A game with a customizable deck of collectible cards. It's a natural evolution of bridge or poker or any traditional card game. BattleCard wasn't that. BattleCards wasn't all that different from that Punch-Out game from earlier, except this one was directly competitive. Even then, certain baseball cards, scratch-off or not, had been used in card games for a while, and if we're defining a trading card game as a game played with collectible cards, Menko predates all of them by a considerable margin. The real innovation of BattleCard, which according to some sources came out a few months before Magic, is that it wasn't just a game played with cards. It was an intense hunt to become the Emperor of Vangoria by collecting all 8 of the wondrous treasure cards, sending them in by post, and getting the coveted prize card given to only those who completed this mission, either by finding treasure in 1 out of every 12 packs, slaying enemies, or by completing complex quests involving confounding riddles and games of chance. Could you acquire the cards you needed to be crowned Emperor?
This was a TCARG, a trading card alternate reality game, and only, 28 years before Inscription, and I'm going to be the one to solve it.
BattleCard was the brainchild of Steve Jackson, British game designer who famously works with Swords and Sorcery Fantasy and wrote notable entries in the Fighting Fantasy gamebook series. Not to be confused with Steve Jackson, American game designer who famously works with Swords and Sorcery Fantasies and wrote notable entries in the Fighting Fantasy gamebook series. The way that you can tell them apart is that one of them co-founded Games Workshop of Warhammer fame. and one of their offices was raided by the US Secret Service for supposedly knowing too much about how to do computer crimes. Out of all the fantasy strategy games involving trading cards designed by a Steve Jackson, yeah, BattleCard is still probably better.
You're gonna want to take a seat for this. BattleCard did not do as well as Magic the Gathering. Please calm down! Yeah, while the UK packs are somewhat hard to come by, the US packs aren't.
I got 33 packs for $12. Notice how the back is transparent? Not good for trading cards, yeah? Now, BattleCard has layers, beginning with the basic scratch and slay TM gameplay. The rules can be found on the back of packs or on warrior status fighter cards. You and your opponent both choose a fighter card, that is, any card that looks like this. So no treasures, quests, or checklist cards, which by the way are numbered cards inserted into packs like any other card. This is really funny. Players take turns scratching off a body part spot on their opponent's fighter. If it's a blank, your opponent's turn starts. If it's a wound, you take another turn. If you reveal a wound while there's already a wound exposed, you also scratch off a life spot. If it's a blank, the game continues. If it's a skull and crossbones, that character is defeated. Once the card is murdered, you scratch off its purse value to determine the price of the dead body. The winner collects the corpse. Dead bodies are valuable after all, and you can use it to buy treasures by sending in a pile of cadavers equal to the price scratched off on a trading post card. The winner also gets every other card that was put up for stakes, which the game suggests you do. To be fair, Magic also didn't know that the ante was a stupid mechanic at the time either. The blow is a bit softened by your cards becoming less valuable once you use them in this game, so giving up your rare cards once they've been scratched to hell shouldn't be too bad.
My friend Peggy happened to have a battle card. Happened to have one. Mess with the best and die like the rest.
In summary, it's just guessing and luck and taking cards. I mean, gambling is still fun, but it's not that skilled. People complain about Yu-Gi-Oh! OTKs, but this is just ridiculous. I guess one perk of these being one use is that you can instantly tell how bodied someone got. If you happen to collect these Secrets of Vangoria cards, more helpful information about the game is revealed. The fighter cards have a status in order of weakest to best are strong, warrior, powerful, and awesome. The higher the status, the less wound icons they have, and the more valuable their dead body is. Warrior cards are weird. They aren't worth much, have the game rules instead of lore, but have multiple places their wound icons can be and fewer wounds than strong cards, ironically making strong the weakest card type. Imagine being weaker than a bitch without a backstory. On every non-warrior cards, the wounds will always be in the same places, and at least one to each body part, meaning that if you memorize them, you can instantly take out that hero if you get the chance to move. Cool concept for the 90s, but if this game came out today, the internet would destroy it. This mechanic reminds me of the memorization of hidden information used in other Steve Jackson creations, like the Fighting Fantasy game books, which combine choose your own adventure with TTRPG mechanics. Sometimes you'd have to take notes of something that happened in one playthrough so you could solve a puzzle in another, or at least not fall to one of the many unforeseeable death traps again. It's a very cool pre-internet concept of rewarding diligent replay that makes a game a non-game when information becomes easily shared and designs trend to be fairer to players. What was rewarding learning-based gameplay back then turns into unengaging memory checks now. If you know the wound locations and can win the coin flip, you win. Of course, this game is poorly documented, so you can't just look it up since people don't want to scratch their mint condition cards to solve a long dead game. I bet the randomized warrior cards just have several patterns they could possibly be on the print run, so even they could be solvable. Regardless of the game not actually being well documented enough for this to be achievable, it's an interesting dynamic to note. There are also different ways to play the game if you collect certain cards and learn their rules. Magic spell cards can be used by players if they agree upon it and have a special effect once cast. In the US version of the game, you simply give up your extra turn after revealing a wound to cast a spell. In the UK version, you had to reveal a spell symbol on your opponent's card, which is non-existent in the US version. Once you cast a spell, you scratch off one of its spots. If it's not an X, the effect starts. The effects can be anything, turning the game into a trivia battle, casting what amounts to Swords of Revealing Light, Fireball, or turning the game into an extremely different one with Peaceful Calm that makes you do card and yard games, where the cards aren't slain. The spells do feel a little magic, with memorization of miscast spots probably playing into your success, and some spells failing if you don't know certain information found on other cards. It mimics that old fantasy, esoteric nonsense that hinges on you knowing increasingly obscure knowledge that's lacking in more modern, logical takes on magic systems. The Peaceful Calm spell fails if you don't know the rules of the card and yard games, meaning that if you can lie to your opponent that you know the rules and don't have the card on you, you can cheat. I think every game should allow for you to legally cheat. Certain spells can only be used in the alternative game modes, like the Mutiny spell, which is exclusive to campaign battles. That spell makes your opponent's units fight each other. A lot of these spells seem strictly better than others, but that seems like a feature, not a bug in this case. This one allows me to scratch off 2 dots per turn during combat instead of 1? Yeah, sure, whatever, man. And Fireball summons a giant fireball that does that, but only once? Okay, eat a dick, I guess. Now, spells are the main way you'll have special effects during battle, as the monsters mostly just have a wall of lore so big that some of them get cut off in the US release due to the smaller card size in the UK. Some monsters, however, have special effects that you're at liberty to explain to your opponent or not. This only really makes sense for one of the cards, Flesh Eater, which if you say, "Marcus Mandrake, I command thee, be gone!" after revealing a wound, it ends the battle immediately with no winner. For the other two, your opponent is going to be absolutely befuddled when you activate Soul Pot's effect and make them fight a copy of their own monster that you have to produce from your own collection before they can fight the Soul Pot again. Hope they watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers so they can just go, "Oh yeah, this makes sense." The Inquisitor is the other card that makes the game into a trivia showdown, because that's what this needed. More Jeopardy minigames. In order for anybody to scratch off a box in a game with the Inquisitor, you must first correctly answer a trivia question, whose answer can be found on a battle card you have on hand without being able to look at the card. It must be a question your opponent can, quote, hope to answer, whatever that means. The issues with this card are obvious. Freeform, loosely ruled trivia is always a game that asks for trouble. Even though the effects we did get on cards are kinda jank, I wish there were more. If not for gameplay variety, then just to see what old Steve Jackson would cook up next. This card turns the battle into not one of just strategy, but might as well. Before scratching off a section of a player's card, the scratcher must first beat them in a street fight. However, that card would never happen. I use singular them. Effects aren't the only way to make the game more complex, at least in the UK. The Brits, in addition to having spell icons on their cards, also had shields. Like every other basic gameplay mechanic, talk to your opponent if you want to use them and how, blah 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 blah. Scratch off a shield? Okay, scratch off a section of your opponent's shield card. If it's blank and your turn, if it's a broken shield icon, take another turn and the shield is discarded. Every shield revealed from now on is treated as a wound. This serves very little than just to prolong the game, so that's probably why the US version got rid of the shield cards and reused their arts on the secrets cards, which also repurposed the text on the back of the battle secrets cards, quest clues cards, and Van Gorian alphabet that was spread across all of the other types of cards. Since the US cards were smaller, they had to put the alphabet somewhere and cut the race and allegiance section of cards present in the UK. None of these losses were too big, except the body part text is much harder to read on the US cards due to it being moved off to the sides in the very textured card art frame. While the shield cards weren't actually that strategic, the advanced combat cards aren't either, but at least they add more player choice into the game. Each card protects 2 body parts on your cards, like the heads or the legs. They also declare targets, like arms. Both players reveal their chosen strategy out of a pile suggested to be around 6 to 8 advanced combat cards. If you target an area that's protected, don't scratch. If you target an area that's open, fair game. If you know where your wounds are located, you can make your guy nearly unkillable. Other than that, it's essentially rock, paper, scissors with extra steps, but at least takes out the first turn advantage. Also of note, this means you can kill each other's cards at the same time, in which case, you exchange corpses, but not stakes. It's whatever. It's like something to do if you've opened enough of these advanced combat cards and packs, but you can literally just make your own. Or even better, just write down the name of the 2 areas you're protecting and the area you're targeting on a piece of paper and then reveal it at the same time. I'm kinda sad that one of the best ways of adding player agency is rock, paper, scissors with extra steps, but it's very on brand at least. So, campaigns and adventures. These are your mass battle options if you want to use multiple of your fighters in a single game. Take a pile of fighters, do a round of combat with the cards on top of the stack, then put them on the bottom. Rinse and repeat, taking cards you defeat out of your opponent's stack until one player's army still has fighters left. Adventures are essentially the same as campaigns, but you're supposed to mimic fights that happen in lore. All of this is fine, but you're not supposed to make cards of the same alignment fight each other unless if they're neutral, which I think is dumb and makes army building needlessly tedious. This doesn't make battles more strategic, but I at least think it does make them more efficient since you can win more cards at once. Nothing but spells have really added strategy or player skill to the game, and that strategy was scratch more or less dots or just turn the game into a different one. All of these games have also been 1v1. Luckily, 2 cards, card and yard games are here to help. Completely ignoring the scratch and slay TM system, these games are ways to play with 3 or more players and win a lot of cards quickly without scratching them. Don't think the cards are going to leave undamaged, though. Card games are based on the rock, paper, scissors system. Every card has a faded icon on the back. Swords beats fist, beats shield, beats sword. The first game is winner takes all. That's the name of the game. It's also the objective of the game. Just to clarify. Line up 3 cards against an opponent's 3 cards. If all of your cards beat them in Jonkin minigame, win all the cards. If not, play again, loser. In Endurance, a table of players plays a gambling game. Each player starts off with a constructed hand with the same amount of cards made up of any combination of symbols. The next player has to beat the most recently played cards with one of their card symbols or forfeit one of their cards to a pot in the middle. The next player then can play a card that beats the standing card to make a new card to beat or forfeit again, leaving the standing card in play. If play returns to the player with the card to beat, with no one being able to play a card to beat it, they win all of the cards in the forfeit pile, and the game can optionally continue with the players picking up the cards they used to beat the other cards with to form a new hand ad infinitum, or at least until they run out of cards. This seems like a fun little gambling game that would be played in a fantasy setting. It's neat! The yard games ignore all of the information on the cards and instead uses them as projectiles and targets. The card even teaches you how to throw cards in vivid color. Words. These games, in lore, were developed by street urchins, so only the real tough ruffians can play them, like little nerdy white boys in 1993. In racing cards, you throw your cards at a wall. The closest one wins all of the cards thrown. In Shoot 'em Down, everyone throws a cards at a leaner card propped up against a wall. The one who knocks it down flat first wins every card thrown. Finally, in Smother Your Neighbor, saber, everyone fires a card 3 to 4 yards away and keeps on firing them until a card even slightly overlaps with another one when it lands. The player to successfully do this wins all of the cards that have been thrown in the game. The yard games will damage the hell out of these cards, but seeing how some of these cards come out of the pack damaged anyways and you're meant to damage them during Scratch and Slay TM gameplay, maybe it's worth it. These are all fun time wasters, probably more fun than the Scratch and Slay TM suite. You can also play all of the yard games with normal cards, and the card games with slips of papers with the symbols drawn on them, and just gamble away with money, so like, yeah, these are nice flavor though. However, all of these games are just means to an end. They are meant to get you more cards without buying packs. You are not collecting cards to play the game or to fill out a collection, but rather to use as currency to obtain treasure cards and trade those in for the Emperor of Vangoria. As described on the first card of the set, the land was once ruled by Sorcerer Emperor Vangor, whose 3 sons battled for supremacy and tore the land apart upon his death. They all went into hiding, leaving the throne empty for you to take. Collect all 8 treasures, send them into San Diego or Milton Keynes, depending on your country, and then get the Emperor in return. You can also send in for a free card, once per address, so you better get on that hot deal. There are 3 ways to get the treasures, each more complex than the last, and all entrenched in the alternate world's lore. The simplest way to find them is in packs. Supposedly, the treasure cards are inserted into the packs randomly at a rate of 1 in 12. At the rate that you have to buy cards for this proto-ARG, you're bound to come into some of them. Next on the ladder is the trading post, where you can give Terry Jones from Monty Python your corpses in exchange for treasure. Yeah, all of the card art done by Alan Craddock in the UK version has been replaced by art by Martin McKenna in the US version, for whatever reason, leading to the trading post becoming this. Hi, Terry Jones from Monty Python. I hope you're having a real one today. Being dead. Simply scratch off 2 portions of the trading post. If it's a number and a treasure, you can send it off with an appropriate valued pile of cadavers and get that treasure sent back to your self-addressed stamped return envelope. If you scratch 2 treasures, 2 numbers, or more than 2 circles, you can go die now, please, thanks. However, there are art variations and framing differences that may clue you into scratch patterns of the cards, so be careful, soldier. The trading post and payment cards would not be returned, so I hope you didn't care about them. Finally, there were the quests. The quest cards send you on elaborate hunts using the cards you have as pieces of the puzzle, with some having hidden symbols in their art, and apparently some quests making you cross-reference pieces of art with the lore and the back of the cards, which is dense, at best. Others lead you to find information not on cards, like the Jester symbol on the back of the pack's wrapper. Another, you have to decode a message in the Vangorian alphabet spread across the different clue cards. All of this is very involved and required burning through a lot of different cards, either by scratching them or sending them in as the correct answer to a riddle, never to be returned. There are 10 quests in total, and you must find the individual quest card before being able to do it. Out of my 33 packs containing 330 cards for a 139 card set, I only found copies of 9 of the 10 quest cards. So good luck to any kid in the 90s trying to do this. Also, some of the cards that have clues for other quests are answers to others, so if you sent them off for prizes in the wrong order, you bricked the game unless if you pulled more than 1 copy. The first quest is the Heirs of Vangor, in which we need to find 3 cards, 1 Justice, 1 Chaos, and 1 Evil, that depict the 3 hiding heirs of Vangor. Our hint on the quest is that they may not be the main character of the card they appear on, and a secrets card clue tells us that a palindrome may help us. Oh, I didn't realize we were lying today. This isn't a palindrome, this is Vangor backwards. Our Justice rep is Aragon Trueblade, seen here having the power! On the back, we can see that the corpse on the front is Chinook Rognav, son of Vangor. Oromontangi, when cross-referenced with Foreign Weatherstorm, is revealed to be Santis Rognav, son of Vangor, transformed into a Droglin when he rushed the wizard in an alleyway. Cool thing to do in the name of justice, Foreign! Our Chaos son is harder to find as he has no palindrome to signify who he is, but Bren the Avenger is said to use his father's connections to take over Prince Gallant's turf, and Prince Gallant reveals that the man who took over his land and took his sister hostage is a son of Vangor. For finding all of the heirs, you get the Crown of Vangor, treasure card T8. Quest 2, Lord Magnoble's Quest, reveals that all of the cards in the game are actually art pieces in the collection of Lord Magnoble the Collector. 5 of them are missing their artist credit, and you must figure out who illustrated them. This is a fun one. The 5 cards are Vangoria, Wolfman, Maeglin Vin, Constantian Cutthroat, and Trading Post. To aid you in this endeavor, there are 7 artist cards with self-portraits of each artist done in their style that have Vangorified backstories. Ah yes, he of Judge Dredd fame. This is cute and neat, and many of these people are dead. Yeah, a lot can happen in almost the exactly 30 years that have passed since this game's release. So, starting off with Trading Post, it swapped art, so we know that it's Martin McKenna and Alan Craddock. 3 of the other cards are all part of different series, each belonging to a different piece of Vangoria and an artist. So Wolfman is Les Edwards, Maeglin Vin is Peter Andrew Jones, and Constantian Cutthroat is so painfully obviously Terry Oakes. The map of Vangoria is not a creature nor a scene, so it's difficult to compare art styles. The color and grain texture, however, reminds me of Waldmeister, so I'll say that it's him. I think this is a fun way to get kids to appreciate the artists who work on a game. In return, they get the Orb of Shantos. To all of the artists that have passed on this game, I have no idea about the contents of your character, but your skills were at least very appreciated. Quest 3, Princess's Suitor. Find him. Hints are black hair, exposed chest, calf-high boots, and savors food. The secret clue for this quest is he only hears half of what he is told. It would make you think that it's the parody of Van Gogh, and the Dutch as a whole, Van Vincent. But that's what makes you a dumbass, because it's Croak the Hunter, the parody of the French. There's also the Crouchians and the Spaghettians, and this is the highest the game punches in terms of groups to demean. The people Croc comes from, like the French, love hot cuisine. And he also lost his ear in battle, now being revered as Croc Mess Ear. Okay, yeah, this was just for a bad pun. Ribbit, ribbit, you French bastards. Celebrate with the Amulet of Eternal Beauty. Hey, this is where the quests stop being fun little riddles and start being listed in that leaked CIA torture manual. The Curse Witch quest is, yeah, this is the one where you kill a bunch of women. The Curse Witch needs ingredients for a terrible potion, and you need to be the one to find all 4 symbols that make up the ingredients on random cards. If you've scratched a fair amount of cards, you may have seen some. Our clue is that we'd notice a pattern after finding 2 of the symbols. The pattern is that they're only found on the top left head spot, on female cards, meaning that the intended solution to find the answer is to kill a bunch of women in combat. So, yeah. If you do, you'll find out it's Venomous with the Moonweed, Xena Nightshade with the Starwort, the Medusa with the Red Fern, and Titania with the Tiger Flower. Now, this would just be an unfortunate, if not somewhat silly quest if it weren't for how the game already treats women. For starters, the game's very British relationship with race, read harboring racist stereotypes from colonialism, is already pretty bad. Our non-white highlight characters include a wandering indigenous hermit who hunts with an ape in a loincloth, the sole black character who leads around a nomadic army of the same complexion, who are all, like, evil, by the way, and the sole Asian character who is just Genghis Khan, and whatever the hell is going on with Prince Gallant. So with that in mind, the treatment of women in this game is not panning out to be that great either. Most of them in lore are first defined by their beauty, or lack thereof, and then their power. It's not like they're not capable, but they all exist without much agency based on their own desires. All of their goals involve fixating on a man or being jealous of a woman whose goal revolves around a man, or they exist to complete a male character's backstory, or don't exist as a card of their own and only exist as a MacGuffin in a male character's story. There's only one female character that acts wholly of her own volition and is defined by her strength and intelligence, and it's a Margaret Thatcher export. You literally have to be lying to me right now. Margaret of Finchley. Yeah, no, that's her. The rest of this card text is choice as well, but I guess we finally know that Margaret Thatcher did effectively utilize girl power by funneling money in illegal paramilitary death squads in Northern Ireland. You can just write this off as appealing to conventions or tropes of the genre, but that's a messed up thing, isn't it? That these are all conventions of the genre? The issue with that is clear, right? Luckily, fantasy has gotten less like that in recent years, ever since they invented more people than just cis white men writing popular fantasy. Which is also to say that people of non-cis white men identities broke into the industry that was heavily inclined to only accept cis white men through lots of hard effort. But this is certainly a relic of an older time. I mean, that older time was literally just the 90s, and that is not long ago, and worldviews like this still exist and have a platform, but at least the pushback against it has more of a platform now, too. This quest arouses some very interesting questions about the fiction writing that we consume and the deeply ingrained inequalities that are just put into it through cultural tropes. But hey, at least you get a treasure card of your choice at the end of it. Yippee! Hey, anyways, what if I told you they made rings up in this bitch? Find the 5 rings of Harak Bar. They're hidden on the borders of cards. In order, they are Ian McCaig, Waldmeister, Homunculus, Gargantuan Marauder, and the Beast Riders. After you find them, do some blow off of your new Genie of the Jewel. Well, that ring stuff was a kind break from rampant consumption, but we're back to scratching shit! The Jester's Quest. Finally, appropriation of my culture. We need to find the 5 Jester symbols hidden on, according to our clues, non-fighter cards, and 1 not on a card at all. Well, hope you keep your wrappers lying around. And for our non-fighters, I assumed spells and assumed right, and luckily had multiple copies of the cards with the symbols on them. Magic Shield, Shield Dissolve, Summon Creature, Force Field Spell, and Peaceful Calm. Yep, 5 cards. Wait, you lied to me! So I don't know if this is a misprint or just a rare allowance of leniency, but I guess more than 4 spell cards have the Jester's icon on them, so, like, do I get 1.2 of any treasure card I want, or... Oh, I guess just this. Saint Cherity's Quest. Find 5 penniless men by defeating them in battle, says the clue. Okay, kill 5 guys who get no bitches and stack no paper.
This should be easy.
Okay, I wasn't just going to scratch the purse slot of every single card I own, so I made educated guesses, and for your sake, I'll omit the wrong ones. My first guess was George Lackluster, a man with no talent in particular, who is not fun or exciting at all. Wait, he can't read social cues and only talks about personal interests with a great level of accuracy and detail. Oh, is this representation or hate speech? After that, my next thought was John the Agreeable, a brutal warrior with very kind manners and who apologizes before killing you with a tip of his helmet. What a nice young man. A few failed attempts later led me to the Red Knight, whose card mentions that he gave up all of his possessions in guilt or something, but I mostly chose him since his name was Toadney Hardman. I quickly ran out of awesome losers at this point and got kinda stuck, So I started to try out people whose lore might indicate they might have given up their wealth, which led me to Brannock, who used to be a marauder and then quit once he realized people didn't really like being thieved and killed. And then after a run of failures, I tried Janu because even though he hunts treasure, I guess he doesn't need money as a hermit. Yeah, once you send in these guys, you get the Lyre of Eternal Song. Only 3 quests remains, and for this one, we have to hunt for the wondrous treasures by cross-examining a bunch of different cards' lore together to track down 4 of the 8 treasures and who they belong to. The Dark Warrior mentions that the Crown of Vangor is in the Merc Pools. I hope you didn't think that this is related to the quest, because then you'd be a dumbass. The card you actually need is Janu the Hunter. You know, the answer to the last quest? If you still have a copy, you'd know that the Orb of Shantos was taken by a Droglin captain, revealed to be Horosoga, and the Dragonstone is held by a creature in, oh my god, Lake Mingus? By Manticus, who serves Lord Vengeance. Meglin Vin, another quest answer that you may have sent off by now, mentions that the Talisman of Fortune was taken from them by Varancus, the Sorcerer. Our only clue for the 4th treasure is hidden across 2 clues which say, hey, you might need a different clue to figure out this quest, and hey, the lyre belongs to Snarg the Ogre, that card that says it has a treasure on it. Those aren't clues. That's cuckolding me for an answer. Well, at least you get the Sword of Slaying after this. That seems a bit redundant. The Sword of Slaying as opposed to what? The Sword of Asking Very Politely, or the Sword of Visiting the Mall in 2008 with a lot of money? The penultimate challenge is the Fool's Quest, where you must solve the riddles 3. The first riddle has multiple possible solutions, so watch the fuck out, pig boy. 2 heads, 2 arms, 6 legs has he, but this is no deformity. If you perchance spy him then, you'd find him just like other men. Submissive and breedable? Yeah, the answer is any guy riding a horse. There's a lot of those, and any of them will do. It's the exact opposite of the real world.
It is often said, with gold alone, a man may win the emperor's throne. So mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the richest of them all?
Steve Jackson, seen here breaking the 4th wall and acknowledging that only kids siphoning money out of their parents' bank accounts could play this game. I hate this riddle. In order to empirically know which card has the highest purse value, you need to scratch every card or just guess when to stop. At least when trying to find penniless men, you knew how many to stop after. I'm just turning in Baron Old Schwartz. He has 200 gold and his card mentions he likes to accrue money. I think they made the richest man a bit too handsome. I guess it's fantasy for a reason.
A play on words is Fool's Quest 3. A kingdom is a clue for thee. This clue sounds like, on some recital, a creature's name prefixed by title.
Well, if their definition of wordplay is like their definition of palindrome, then we are simply looking for words. Prince Lionheart has a creature's name prefixed by title and rules over Stag Castle, which had a king at some point. I suppose the answer could also possibly be the Lord of the Flies. I mean, its name is a clever wordplay, that being the title of a book wholesale, and it is a creature's name prefixed by title, or maybe it's a creature's name prefixed by of the, but I'm not so sure since it's not really related to a kingdom. I guess it's an ally of the Dragon Prince, but it doesn't seem like it's actually a valid answer to this riddle. But then again, Janu the Hunter was a penniless man, even though he literally had a job and collected treasure, but who am I to be a dumbass? So Prince Lionheart is my best guess. These are the 3 answers I'm going with, and I don't think I could be bothered to change them or look any further this close to the finish line, so Talisman of Fortune, that's the prize! In the immortal words of Harubaru Hinode from Bakutech Bakukan, last one, Daze? I didn't pull this quest, which is a shame because it's the one that tells you how to get the Emperor, and that it even exists as a card. The rune quest is simply a message that must be decoded using the Vangorian alphabet, most of which are found on Secrets of Vangoria cards. If you're British, you can also do this by collecting enough cards with one symbol each to make enough out of the alphabet to decode it. The message reads, "You wonder why there are 139 cards in the battle card set instead of 140? The answer is to be found within the runes on the..." And the message cuts off there in the US version because of the smaller card size. If we turn it to the front to read the scroll, "Wondrous treasure cards." Wow, they really were gambling a lot of curiosity on the fact that they didn't go with a round number. I imagine the UK version, to reflect their card count, says 149 instead of 150. This card rewards you with the Dragon Stone, which is your final wondrous treasure, unless if you pulled literally any of the quests that said take any treasure card you want. But we won all 8 treasure cards, which, to our knowledge, is the point of the game. I mean, I read the booster pack. I hope you did. So, we won. Or so you may think. To get the letter saying that you've solved everything the game has to offer and get the secret last card in the set, you must translate the back of all of the treasure cards, which, when put in order, tell you where to send them, get them stamped, and get the Emperor in return. But in the US version, it's a bit more complicated. The first 12,000 trading post exchanges, more than all of them that ever happened probably, would be silver foiled versions of the treasures with their own collection numbers. The first 6,000 quest rewards for each quest that gave out a specific treasure card would be gold foiled, again with those treasures having their own collector's numbers. While the UK version just had one version of the Emperor, the US version had a silver and gold foiled version, as well as the normal one. And even Steve Jackson himself doesn't know how many of them were sent out, because to get them, you'd have to send in for all of them by December 31st, 1994, giving players a little over a year from release to buy and send in the multiple booster boxes worth of cards they'd need to solve the quests or collect the treasures from packs. That's kind of a tight turnaround for kids buying things in the 90s, right? Not to mention the added quest of getting silver or gold foiled versions of the cards in the US version to get rarer versions of the Emperors. And at the end of that, is it even worth it? Well, do you want $900? With the deadline being long expired, what does that make me? I did all of the quests with only the information on the cards. I don't have all of the treasures. I can't send off for them. And even then, I couldn't send those off for the Emperors if I wanted. My only path to get to the throne is through spending gold alone. But no, that's not how I'm going to do this. I am the rightful heir. I am the Emperor of Vangoria, and my first act was to forever make the mysteries of my power public. The case is cracked. You are now, too, the Emperor of Vangoria. Card or not, you know the secrets of this place, and that is the main gameplay mechanic of this whole ordeal, no? Memorizing wound pattern, trading post outlets, spell symbols, lore. You now hold as much mastery over this place as I. Power can only be held if it is kept exclusive. Although I figured this shit out, I'm adding the title to my list of epithets in my resume. Only I get to do that. BattleCard is an incredibly unique part of trading card history, easily ahead of its time, seeing how popular these kinds of large-scale information-gathering games have become. That begs the question, is it a better product than Magic? Should we consider it the first trading card game?
Fucking no!
Most cards come misaligned, damaged, or both. Some are speckled with extra scratch-off paint. The scratch-off portions confuse with the cards to make them hard to scratch, or make them stick together in packs, leading to some packs with nearly identical contents. The game involved you destroying cards en masse in a very basic test your luck or test your memory game, failing as both a collector's line and a competitive card game. On the other hand, Magic was a game that could be played multiple times with the cards still intact.
BattleCard had big ideas, beautiful art, deep lore, and too many issues to even count. But it did do one thing right, even if it didn't realize it. This game is one of the most poignant meta-satires I've ever seen in game design. This game is about irrevocably consuming on a massive, unsustainable scale. There is no way to play this game without damaging cards or making them completely obsolete. In the sense of a collector's product, this game is the worst one to ever exist. But as a prophetic critique of what games like Magic would become, this shit is so profound. You waste and waste until you've wasted enough to throw away what you've obtained to get more valuable garbage. And once you've hopped through the hoops that you could only possibly reach by piling up the corpses of those you've sacrificed for treasure, what do you get? Your treasure is irreparably disfigured and you're mailed a status symbol that you cannot even use in the base game. With this battle card, you become a king, a god, a billionaire, and all you have to do to get it is sacrifice everyone less valuable than your growing hoard of treasure. Or pay someone who already has. I think that this is my favorite piece of game design ever, intentional or not. This game, which glorifies Margaret Thatcher, somehow ends up being one of the smartest, tightest criticisms of capitalism of all time. This game was one of the last in a fad of scratch-off card games that died for obvious reasons. Until almost 30 years later. Yeah, we're doing it again, baby! What if 100 Gets was a Digimon?